Same premise, same dynamic, same ending. Come on, you spot the difference. You're looking at two movies featuring a crash landing, parent-child relationship, dangerous parasites, and a race to leave a hostile planet. But the real contrast here is in the ratings. How did one get shredded by critics, but the other flew under the radar? Is the difference in their success really plot deep? Let's talk about it. Hello listeners, DontGetMeStarted with you. Before we dive in, remember to like this video as it helps the algorithm find my content. I post bi-weekly, so please click the subscribe button and the notification bell so you won't miss any new analyses. Now without further ado, don't get me started. Dear listeners, we have got to talk about 2013. What a legendary year for peak entertainment across every genre. We were graced with bombshell blockbusters like The Hunger Games, The Great Gatsby, The Croods, Desolation of Smog, The Butler, Pacific Rim, 12 Years a Slave, and of course, Frozen, and that's just to name a few. Then came the ambitious genre-bending releases like The Host, Now You See Me, Oz the Great and Powerful, Ender's Game, Jack the Giant Slayer, and so many more. Honestly, some of my all-time favorites came from this year. Childhood me thought the creative floodgates would never close, and we know that's saying something. Now, sci-fi was having a moment in 2013, and that's when Will Smith said, "Hey, Mr. Shyamalan, let's make a movie about a father and son stranded on Earth. I'll co-star with Jaden, should be a great way to boost his career. I mean, they loved us in The Pursuit of Happiness. What could go wrong?" Well, everything will. Everything. Currently sitting at a 12% on Rotten Tomatoes, After Earth has a rating lower than Aquaman 2. Just let that sink in. And yet I'll confess now, I am in love with this movie, even more now than when I first watched it. But I have to acknowledge others' complaints, and trust me, they had a lot of complaints. First off, when you're dealing with an M. Night Shyamalan film, what you see is rarely what you get. Audiences expected something action-packed and groundbreaking, whatever that means, but instead they got a slow burn survival thriller. Then there's the elephant in the room, M. Night Shyamalan and Will Smith. The former was already a divisive name in Hollywood, and the latter a highly respected actor at the time. But throw in Jaden Smith, fresh off his well-loved performance in The Karate Kid, and suddenly the film wasn't just a movie. It was a project, a passion project, a legacy project, and that rubbed some people the wrong way before it even saw the film. Clearly, all the special effects in the world couldn't save this movie from flopping. But why? What they'll tell you is that it's due to the stiff acting and that the film took itself too seriously. But I unfortunately don't buy that for a second. There is another reason no one wants to point out, one that everyone would rather keep secret, and I'm here to expose it. Let's be honest with ourselves, 65 is pretty meh. If not for being a feature film of Adam Driver shooting laser guns at dinosaurs, I doubt anyone would have cared. But get this, that's why people liked it, because the plot is all there is. You get a superficial bond between a little girl and a man who assumes guardianship over her, neither of which can speak each other's language, so no need for a slow moment where Adam Driver imparts a word of wisdom. And overall, the movie has just enough action to distract us from the lack of depth within this pointless journey. They crash land, they struggle, and eventually they make it off the planet. Oh, and let's not forget that Adam Driver's character once had a daughter of his own who died while he was unable to be with her. Seriously, I feel I should call the police for 65 stealing After Earth's intellectual property. Never mind viewers' individual qualms with After Earth, at least it was an original story, and as far as I and many others can tell, a labor of love. 65, on the other hand, feels formulaic. It's Jurassic Park, but make it sci-fi. I find it funny how much moviegoers like to pretend they want originality, then settle for good enough because, well, it's not too woke for me. I mean, we can't be too picky. If you ask me, the problem with After Earth is not the movie itself. It was simply made in the wrong century. As you can see, what would have garnered praise in the 20th century now makes people cringe. I'm realizing that our society truly does not appreciate deep and meaningful journeys. Nor do they enjoy movies that present a strong father figure, specifically a black father figure, teaching his son life lessons that young men in the audience need to hear. It just reflects the times. We'd rather waste an hour of our precious lives viewing an interesting plot and no moral premise, or at least none too profound and applicable that we can't look cool explaining to our fellow colleagues. This is just one of the many qualms I have with modern audiences. No one is consuming media in search of wisdom or self-evaluation, but a confirmation of their own ideals. No wonder movie making has boiled down to a science. Creators are too afraid to speak a message that hasn't been regurgitated ample times. The only thing that saved Avatar: Way of Water was the heavily expressed environmentalism and previous adoration for the first movie in the series. Audiences have managed to shoot themselves in the foot by eradicating the importance of a serious, heartwarming message. We say we want to go back to the good old times, but really we only stick around for aesthetics. You think Titanic would become the cult classic it is in today's time? Maybe, but I wouldn't be too sure. You think The Sound of Music would even be given as much attention if not for its nostalgic value? Again, I doubt it, but I guess it's always possible. The point is, what society desperately needs doesn't make Hollywood any money. Yes, their revenue already plummets because go woke, go broke, but even so, pandering is still more profitable than actually trying to enlighten this generation. And what of the young men who need guidance now more than ever? Where are the Good Will Huntings, stories that produce men of valor, honor, and grounded morality? No, such characteristics are now only reserved for older characters, with no example of these principles being taught to misguided youth. People aren't angry with the execution of After Earth, but the fundamental premise. The idea that a father could still be a mentor, though he is flawed. Or that a son, despite his natural inclination to go his own way, could still be a mentee. That more is needed than just provision and protection. What a boy truly needs is direction. And isn't that a bitter pill to swallow? After Earth presents a realistic struggle of a son learning to trust and obey his father's guidance, despite all that he sees as important and despite his natural inclination to resist each instruction. Torn between his need for his father and his unspoken emotional wounds that make him hesitant to listen. Will Smith's character, Cypher Rage, represents a father's panoptic oversight. He sees everything his son cannot, yet he has no agency over Katai's choices. From Katai's perspective, his father is an inescapable voice, yelling in his ear, forcing him to see the world as he does. And that's precisely why his name is Rage. Cypher Rage. It's a name that embodies how his son views him. An unrelenting force, a strict and distant figure. To Katai, Cypher is both everything he aspires to be and everything he fears becoming. Having grown up primarily under his mother's wing, his father is a mystery to him. And yet, whether he likes it or not, he is his father's son. He carries that same fire, that same rage, just as he shares the Rage name. Both father and son are headstrong, each in their own right. Even Katai's name is symbolic. In Japanese, Katai means expectations, a nod to the crushing weight he feels to prove himself, to earn the respect of his father who seems impossibly out of reach. This is not just a sci-fi adventure, this is a story about legacy, discipline, and the difficult road to manhood. And that's exactly why it was dismissed. So if critics and audiences still want to hide behind the excuse that it's all about the acting, be my guest. But personally, I don't see anything wrong with it. And let's be real, why are we pretending that a movie needs to meet Avengers Endgame levels of spectacular in order for us to like it? I'm not a critic, and frankly I don't want to be. I actually enjoy watching movies instead of dissecting them like an academic exercise. What matters to me most is the impression a film leaves, the emotional weight it carries. We can analyze the technicalities later, but this is exactly where I see a culture shift. Somewhere along the way, common moviegoers became critics. Now everyone approaches films with a pen and paper, picking them apart like unpaid Rotten Tomatoes contributors. And while After Earth came out over a decade ago, our attitude toward entertainment has only gotten worse. Until we change how we consume movies, genuinely good movies will never make a comeback. Whew, that got deeper than I was expecting. Well everyone, that's the end of my rant. And before you go, please make sure to leave a like and comment below your thoughts on my analysis. If you haven't yet, please hit the subscribe button so you can be notified every time I release another video. Thanks for watching!